All right, Nick and I are in the same place for the first time to do this podcast, which would be great if I didn't fear change so much. Let's get into it.
Sounds great.
Music. Cool. All right, this week we are asking the big questions, Nick. We're asking how many pages does a flyer have to have before it's an ebook? But more importantly, because everything's more important than that, how do we derive value from marketing? How do we know if it's working? And also with one of the guys in our team figured out a cool trick for Teams Phone, which I don't understand, but you'll take us through.
Sounds good.
All right. So to start with, we have been thinking about how we frame the podcast. We've been thinking about some of the feedback we get. Thankfully, most of it's positive, but it's just that not everyone who listens is from an MSP, and we want it to be, we don't want to unintentionally exclude people or make them feel like it's not really addressing things that relate to them. And a lot of the people listening work in telcos or other types of integrators, not necessarily just general IT, but maybe specific verticals. The key point is if you hear us saying that we're the podcast that helps MSPs get ahead less and more, we're a podcast aimed at informing people working in the IT and telco sectors, that's probably what we're going to be working towards.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, good, cool. All right, boom. Anyway, that aside, I didn't necessarily want to lead with this, but it's next up on my list. And I think it's something that on a day where you kept on saying there's a podcast in that to everything I said, we were trying to figure out how many pages is it before a flyer becomes an ebook so that we can pump those ebook numbers up. Someone did Google that today. Was it?
Yeah, I Googled it yesterday, but the magic number was, I think it was 25. It was around 25, which is quite a lot of pages.
I would have said 7.
Yeah, I would be happy with 7 because I always think of a flyer as like, do me up a 1-pager, you know?
Maybe a 3-page flyer. I would say there's a spot there between 3 pages as a flyer, 7 pages as an ebook. What's between 3 and 7 or 4, 5, 6?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is it like
and also,
micro white paper?
What's the difference between a white paper and an ebook?
I think an ebook tells a story. A white paper is it's more of a technical deep dive on it, you know?
Okay.
I don't
think I care enough about this to come up with an opinion.
Yeah. But, I don't think it's going to remove the dial for any of our partners
dial
out there or listeners.
Yeah, no. But it is interesting in that if we were to really look to put out more ebooks and market them as ebooks, there's probably some minimum standard. But I'd feel like a bit of a fraud if it had less than 7.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool.
I think 25 is a good number, but as we have found out, a huge amount of effort goes into producing and editing.
Well, we just did 40 pages for the Teams Phone ebook, and it took us about 5 months.
Yeah.
And we had most of that content already. So I'm actually not sure what the blocker was there. Maybe it's just on us. Maybe we're just really bad at it.
We're pedantic.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it doesn't help that we actually released that. And you were telling me today Microsoft has already changed one of the config things.
Yeah. So PowerShell 4.0, I think it's PowerShell 4.0. Richie posted about that today.
Okay.
In there. And so now the online version of the ebook doesn't match the printed copy of the ebook, which again, another great question. Can you print an ebook? Is it still called an ebook if we print it? So
we should do a whole episode on the big questions around ebooks. I should just cut the rest of the things we want to talk about today and just go massively deep on ebooks.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so that is the minimum version is now PowerShell 4.0.0 for the Teams PowerShell module for when you're configuring it. So
okay,
if you see a reference to something else in our materials, it's not that.
I'm not going to lie. PowerShell 4.0 sounds super boring. What I will say though is that's probably a nice segue to you talking about whatever it is we found out is a thing that can be done with Teams Phone today. So what was that? Because I didn't get it.
Yeah, so in Teams Phone, basically you have outbound, when you have an outbound call go out, sometimes it will be listed as anonymous, and some carriers basically just drop all calls that are anonymous for spam reasons, private, anonymous, whatever, depends on who it is. But our good mate Richie and our voice teams discovered that if you've got a resource allocated, so if you've got an auto attendant or a calling queue assigned with a number, you can actually set up different policies to change those DDIs, those outbound numbers that get displayed for users in there. So we have included how to do that in our team setup guide and in the online version of the ebook.
Okay. Nice work,
So
everyone.
just a little hack, a little value add, a little bit of insights for our partners configuring teams for their customers.
Good stuff, us.
Yeah.
Okay, and nice work, Richie. All right, cool. I want to talk about marketing. One thing. If you're going to, this is just a general thing. If you're watching the video here, you can see the gin that we made. When you get things made, make sure people can use them.
Yeah.
20 minutes trying to open that bottle of gin.
Well, we've opened two of these bottles now, and the first one, it did take a particular staff member about 20 minutes to open. Probably
Using a knife, right? Like
Yeah.
he was just hacking. Yeah.
HR wasn't there and probably shouldn't have been there, so that's good. I do have a photo though. But then, I opened it last night seamlessly, so it could just be
Just a better human.
a few bottles, or
Yeah.
it could be my superior strength.
Okay. Lars, if you are listening, shots fired. All right, so that's the thing. Also, they're great gin. Who actually did we get that gin from? Who made that for us?
That is a consult here. Carbon 6. They are a distillery in Auckland. Takapuna.
Oh, good job,
Yeah.
Carbon 6. It was yum and continues to be. We have quite a lot of it. Okay, so I had an experience. We went to an MSP's office yesterday. They're called SkyPoint here in Hamilton, which is where we're filming from today in our head office, because I'm over in New Zealand, which is great to be able to travel again. But that aside, one of the guys there, Michael, he was telling me that they had a client get in touch who said, "Hey, I'm looking at Team's phone." He said basically his first reaction was to go to our website, go into the Team's phone ebook, look at our blogs as well, and go and listen to one of the podcasts where we talked a lot about Team's phone, done a bit of a deep dive. And I just wanted to reflect on that, because I think we talk a lot in this podcast, and I've had some guests on that have talked about it as well, the power of that demand gen, right? Like creating content that holds value, that really enables your clients to deliver more value and get ahead. And that example yesterday says to me that we're creating content that when someone is ready to make a purchasing decision, we're in the frame. And that's like the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, don't try and push them to make a purchasing decision when they're not ready, but when they are ready, make sure that they know that you can help them on that journey. So I just wanted to really use that as an illustration for people listening who, whether they're working for a telco, whether they're working for an MSP, and they're trying to think, how do I find out whether or not it's hitting the mark? It's not always super easy to get, those sort of analytics that you would expect from sort of a lead gen campaign, but those kind of conversations are really fulfilling and probably tell me that we're on the right path, and just sort of validate some of those points we've been sharing in earlier episodes.
Yeah, and that was quite good, because he obviously went through all that material that was available to him. We jumped on a call with that client today, actually, and we had a pretty good discussion about Teams Phone. It happens to be versus 3CX as well. So it was great to be able to pitch both options there with that partner to the end customer. But yeah, again, he just went in armed with that material that we'd put for him, that he just had available when he was ready to consume it.
Gold. Another thought around marketing, like how you get a return on your marketing investment, and where you have clients that maybe don't have the same marketing resources you do. If you can help them create content that really drives home their value, helps them succeed, and particularly because for most of us, whether you're in a telco or an MSP, when your clients get bigger, so does their headcount, which means probably your per user billing goes up. There's more requirement for infrastructure, maybe more offices, whatever. So if your marketing team can create content for them that's targeting their end users with their value proposition, your marketing team can potentially become a bit of a sales engine as well, through marketing as a service kind of a thing. So that's something we're starting to toy with and look at. So wanted to share that. So where you are particularly effective at your marketing for your own organization, and you've got and against your peers in your space, you're perceived as just being better known and having a really strong brand. When it comes to partnering, other companies might have technical expertise that you don't have. But if you're able to kind of go, well, look, yes, you've got the skills, we've got the brand. If it's done well, particularly from like a JV or partnering sort of side where you're looking to leverage someone else's capabilities, I just think marketing can give you a really clear point of difference, particularly in the tech sector. There's not a lot of companies that do it really well.
Yeah, it's about partnering for success, and regardless of what industry people are in, you working with your partners to the best of your abilities unlocks their success, and their success in turn is that repeat business for you, and then you grow when they grow. It's basic business math, and then to help them along the way where you can, where it's feasible, where it's cost effective, and you can get economies of scale. Perhaps you go halvesies on case studies or something like that. Then that absolutely just unleashes the power of that partnership.
Yeah. I think I'm so pro marketing because I just see it as the whole point of marketing is to make sales easier through giving your sales team a unique selling proposition, like a unique point of difference. And there's so many ways I'm realizing that marketing can drive opportunities for your sales team to capitalize on.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. It's hard to sell when people haven't heard of you.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, though, I did that for so long. Like, I'd be talking to people and, hey, I'm from Lightwire. Yep, never heard of them, particularly in Australia, right?
Yeah.
And that's happening less and less now. So there's just a huge opportunity out there for people listening in the MSP space, particularly, I think, as well, because it's not done particularly well by a lot of MSPs. Early adopters will probably get the greatest return.
Yeah, biggest standout, biggest leap. And it's playing to the platforms as well that are out there. Video content can be the most expensive content to try and create, yet it's also the easiest to create if you've got an iPhone and iMovie.
That's true.
You can whip something out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But those platforms love that video content. They'll promote that over easily, whipping up a one-page flyer or something like that and posting it online, or a quick image that highlights what you're trying to offer.
Yeah. Problem with some of the videos that people create too, this is some other feedback I got yesterday in another meeting, was you spend, say, $3,500 on a 2-3 minute video. It has relevance for an event or a particular point in time, and then it's done. Yeah. You chuck it on the socials, you get a couple of likes or something, but it's very point in time, and it's hard to derive really strong value from it. So, understanding, I guess, what's going to have a bit of what's going to hold its value, what's worth investing in. But yeah, honestly, it's, to your point, I don't even know of the formats which holds the greatest value in terms of reach. It's going to depend on the segments that you're targeting.
What platforms they're using, what market segment you're aligned with. Yeah, B2C, B2B.
The thing that often catches people out is you throw a really well-crafted video up, or a great PDF, or I was going to say flyer or ebook up about a product or service, right? You throw it up on LinkedIn and you see the engagement is just rubbish. It's going to be, you can be caught out just by tagging people too much in the copy, by putting the link in the copy instead of in the comment section. There are so many ways to lose out. So that's another way that potentially, if you've got a good marketing team and you're looking to help partners grow their engagement, it might not even be through content. It could be through just that education piece around how do you actually gain the most traction on the platforms you are using.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the other thing that just jumped into my head there was, you might create something and get like 1 or 2 clicks on it, something like that. But if it's a really complicated product for someone to understand, and that enables 1 sale, and it's a high value sale, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
If that customer wouldn't have come and purchased from you. So, I don't think people should be discouraged by metrics sometimes. It comes down to what you're selling.
Yeah. And to understand then whether or not it's working, you need to understand the total addressable market you're working within. And one of the best ways to do that is to have your sales team actually come up with the account-based marketing list. If you then have a really clear idea of, well, who are we actually targeting? And there's 80 businesses in there with a total number of 3,000 employees, and you have 50 clicks. It's not a bad penetration rate like that. That might well work out, to be a pretty good result.
Yeah.
But so I think you're absolutely right. But it starts with understanding who you're actually trying to sell to and how big the market is. All right, cool. Let's move on to, I guess, actually the borders being open and being able to see people, which is nice, at least for me. It's weird seeing people in person over here again.
Yeah, and a lot that you haven't actually met in the flesh before.
That's true, actually. Staff and clients. Yeah.
Lots changed in 10, 11 months since you were here last.
Oh, it has. We've certainly grown a what in that time. What's your vibe with, what what sales opportunities are now becoming easier to I guess, is sales becoming easier as things open back up?
Yeah, I was actually talking to a partner about this yesterday, and the last time I caught up with him, which was probably about 4 months ago, I'd say, we were both going, there's a bit of a lull in the market, and I was trying to work out, was it just something I'm seeing, or is it something that our clients are seeing, and we did correlate that it was them seeing it as well, which explains things. And then we're just saying, like, just how busy it now is. It's like there is an element of business confidence that people were ready to move forward. They're like,
even with everything that's going on, that's the way you're reading it.
Yeah.
And I say everything that's going on is in, the inflation and the war and Chinese lockdown and the fact no one can get a single piece of hardware of any kind.
Yeah. And yet it's still a lot of business being done. There's people opening new offices. There are people expanding. There's mergers and acquisitions going on. There's still a lot of, there's a lot of burnout. I think we touched on that last time within some of the smaller MSPs there. But that's just, again, just creating more opportunity for other companies that are hungry and ready to grow, to go in and, take over those clients, do a better job, all that stuff there. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of Australian businesses that seem to be pushing into New Zealand. That's keeping Jack quite busy. So that's quite good.
Yeah,
good for him.
Jack, for anyone listening, he is a BDM of ours based over in the Gold Coast office. See, because I was honestly wondering whether or not more difficult trading conditions would lead to potentially some well-priced acquisition opportunities for the bigger companies to go out and scale through. But it doesn't sound like that's what you're hearing.
No, it seems to be the smaller ones are kind of banding together a little bit. So it's not large companies coming and buying the smaller ones, although I'm sure there is a little bit of that happening. But those small to mid-sized companies are just emerging and trying to push into new territories, whether that's Bay of Plenty into Waikato or Auckland into the Waikato and things like that. And the hardest part about doing a lot of, particularly in New Zealand, of acquisition is it's heavily relationship driven, and you can't just push yourself into a new region. We can, but it's very difficult to go and get traction with clients. But if you can buy a local operator in there who has existing relationships, has a good reputation, then you can easily expand into that marketplace.
When the waters get a bit choppy and people look ahead and go, well, actually, there's going to be a recession, which, again, who the hell knows? Things aren't, as you say, looking terrible at the moment for the companies you're talking to. But when people start to think that is likely, a lot of businesses start to look at how they can, essentially reduce costs. And that often changes people's priorities or decision makers' priorities within those businesses. They stop being maybe as value driven, outcome focused, and more just price driven. And then that changes the way the market dynamics are set. The companies that maybe have a value-based pricing structure rather than cost plus, it starts to get more difficult for them to kind of find their niche within the market or really justify that value premium. So I don't know. I just think it's going to be interesting as these, however the recession fears play out, if that does start to look more likely, how that impacts the market.
I think it's going to be super interesting because I think what the pandemic has done in New Zealand, it's created a kind of a toughened business owner. And by toughened, I mean they understand the risks to their business a lot more. They understand how hard it is to get new talent, retain existing talent, but also when shit goes wrong and goes down, or they might have been caught off guard with some legacy tech, not able to do hybrid workforce, things like that. They started to think differently, and they want that value. They see that value of working with partners that can enable them to achieve that. And even if it's at a premium, they're prepared to pay it because they've started to go, the cost of downtime is actually not just worth the $54 that I've saved on my internet connection a month. It's, I've got bums on seats that are costing me $150 an hour in billing that I can't charge. Things like that. And I think that's going to change the probably historic norms of recession in New Zealand.
So is your theory essentially that businesses have done it hard, or prepared to do it hard when COVID first kicked in, and now have much more robust and resilient businesses.
Yeah.
That's
I
a fair
do
call.
think that, and I think a lot of them did cut the fat of when it first happened, and they were like, "What's the most expensive cost for business in New Zealand? It's labor." And those that are left in jobs are usually the good ones now, particularly in probably professional services and things like that. I guess retail and other elements is still probably the mixed bag that it's always been.
Yeah, it's weird at the moment how unemployment is at almost historic lows at a time when GDP growth is really tailing off. We've got inflation going through the roof. We've got interest rates going up, and yet there's this really strong job market with wages stubbornly high. Yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around for any of the last big recessions or the depression or anything, so I don't know that this definitely hasn't played out before. But it seems a weird set of I guess metrics all aligned that don't necessarily correlate.
Yeah. Last recession, I guess 2008. I was in university.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was old already, but I had no idea what I was talking about and took no notice of anything that was going on. So can't really comment on that. But yeah, that would be, again, every podcast I feel like I go, that'd be a good subject, or there's a podcast in that. But yeah, I feel like getting an economist on that can talk through some of those things and again, why we're seeing what we're seeing and that sort of mismatch between apparent hard times, but really high demand for labor driving those wage costs up.
Yeah, definitely a podcast in that.
Definitely a podcast in that one. Now, whether or not a flyer is a flyer at 7 pages or an ebook, maybe less of a podcast than that. I think we fleshed that out about as much as we could. But yeah, okay, cool. All right, anything else that we should be covering off?
Yeah, so one of the things that I guess has always resonated with me, but has hit home over the last few days of being able to travel and get out and about and see people again is that power of relationship. And you can do all the marketing you want. You can have outbound campaigns, you can have inbound campaigns. People do business with people. If you're not out there talking to customers, seeing them, having some kind of cycle to go and check off with your customers and check in rather, you're not going to see the return on your marketing efforts. Like totally. There's a direct correlation between sales and seeing your customer in person.
Totally. Yeah. I think people are going to call bullshit on your marketing if your salespeople turn up and they're just, either not interested, not engaging, don't know what they're talking about, or just simply don't go. Yeah. So I totally agree. I was just having a chat with Kat, where so much of the business that we do in this industry is over drinks, over dinner. It's just the way. I don't know how it's done in other industries. I don't know what happens in other industries, but in our industry, for some reason, that is just how business is done most of the time.
Yeah, which is great because probably two of the things I really like doing is eating and drinking.
They're pretty important actually to live mostly, but
fundamentals really.
They are. They're very much.
Yeah, and we just double down on them.
Just go big. Just be so alive. All the food, all the drink.
But that's about it as well. Is you want to work with people that you align with, and if you can go and have a really good time away, or even catch up with clients on the weekend, and it doesn't feel like work. You're just bonding and you're developing that partnership further and further. It'll just see your business right, and it'll just help take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think. I know clients, partners, they don't want to work with dicks, and so when you take someone out for, a dinner, some drinks, people typically let the guard down. They're more authentic. They're themselves. So you can get a good feel as to whether or not you're going to enjoy working with those people, because it is an ongoing relationship in our industry. And it just reminds me of what they call it, the DHT in the interview process, the hiring process, the Dickhead test, where you take the person who you are looking to employ. Again, it's a long, committed relationship when you work with someone. Yeah. And it's a chance to go, right, we've had you in a stale office environment. We've done a phone interview, an in-person interview, maybe another in-person interview. Now let's actually get you in a setting where your guard's down. It doesn't have to be like you ply them with drinks. It could just be dinner and a Coke Zero, whatever. I say Coke Zero because sugar, bad. Anyway, There'll be
You
someone
just
out there.
smash a caramel slice.
No, not the time to play Smash with throwing stones. It's I'm feeling very.
It's about balance.
I'm feeling very vulnerable right now, and it's because I was drinking last night, and I've got the deep hunger that I can't seem to get rid of. But anyway, that aside, yes, that whole is this person we're about to employ? Are they also the kind of person I want to be around long term? So whether you're employing someone, working with someone. In a client vendor relationship, same vibe for me.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of companies out there with perhaps a stuffy policy around expenditure on that kind of thing. And, the tax man also doesn't really help with deductibles around that. So the CFO may get involved sometimes. But, I think it's an important part of your business, when you are doing your budgets and things like that, which is, I guess, just around the corner for a lot of companies if they haven't already set them. Just try and factor that in.
Yep. Checking the budget. All right, cool. All right, well, I reckon they'll probably do it for this week. You happy?
Yeah, sounds good.
Boom, done. Okay, well, thank you for joining us for another week. Nick is on LinkedIn, so am I. Nick Phillips, 2 L's, Brendan Ritchie, RITCHIE. That's a thing. That's quite important. And of course, Nick at insightsasaservice.fm, Brendan at insightsasaservice.fm. We will see you again